Robert Stone had learned the most important lesson of his career. He realized that talent and intelligence can come from anywhere, and that judging people based on their job titles or social status was not only wrong, but also bad for business. He had nearly lost the opportunity of a lifetime because of his prejudices. The plasma engine that Alex had fixed became the foundation for a new generation of spacecraft engines. NASA used the technology to develop propulsion systems that could take astronauts to Mars in half the time previously thought possible. The breakthrough led to advances in space exploration that benefited all of humanity. Alex never forgot where he came from or how his journey had started. He established a scholarship program for children from low-income families who showed interest in science and technology. He believed that every curious young person deserved the chance to explore their potential, regardless of their family's financial situation. The story became an inspiration to young people around the world. It showed that with curiosity, determination, and the courage to act on your knowledge, anyone could make a difference. It proved that the next great scientific breakthrough might come from the most unexpected place. Alex's journey from a janitor's son doing homework in a corporate lobby to a NASA consultant and MIT student became a symbol of what was possible when talent was recognized and nurtured. His story reminded everyone that genius can be found anywhere, and that sometimes the people we overlook are the ones who can change the world. The electromagnetic interference that had once frustrated Alex while he tried to do homework had led to a discovery that would help humanity explore the stars. And it all started with a curious teenager who wasn't afraid to investigate a mystery and try to help solve a problem. Robert Stone sat in his office staring at the phone for a long time after his conversation with NASA. The weight of his mistake was crushing him. He had built his entire career on making smart business decisions, but last night he had made the biggest error of his life. He called his assistant and asked her to find the contact information for James Chen. Stone had fired the man less than 24 hours ago, but now he needed to swallow his pride and try to fix the damage he had done. Meanwhile, James was at home trying to figure out what to do next. He had called in sick to his part-time job at the grocery store because he couldn't concentrate on anything. The rent was due in 2 weeks, and without his cleaning job at TechFlow, he didn't know how he would pay it. Alex sat at their small kitchen table, still feeling terrible about what had happened. He kept replaying the events of the previous night in his mind. Maybe he should have just stayed in the lobby and ignored the electromagnetic interference. Maybe he should have asked permission before entering the lab. But he had been so excited about finally understanding what was causing the problem. "Dad, I'm really sorry," Alex said for the 10th time that morning. "I didn't mean to get you fired, I just wanted to help." James looked at his son and felt his heart break a little. The boy had done nothing wrong except be curious and try to help people. If anything, James was proud of Alex for having the courage to act on his knowledge. "You don't need to apologize," James said gently. "You were trying to do the right thing. Sometimes adults don't understand that young people can be smart too." The phone rang, interrupting their conversation. James almost didn't answer it, thinking it might be someone calling about overdue bills. But something made him pick up the phone. "Hello, is this James Chen?" The voice on the other end sounded familiar. "Yes, this is James. This is Robert Stone from TechFlow Industries. I need to speak with you and your son immediately. It's very important." James felt his anger rise. Hadn't this man done enough damage already? "Mr. Stone, I think you've said everything you needed to say last night." "Please, just listen to me for 1 minute," Stone said urgently. "Your son didn't damage our equipment, he fixed it. He solved a problem that my team of engineers couldn't figure out in 8 months. James looked at Alex, who was listening to the conversation with wide eyes. "What do you mean he fixed it? The plasma engine is working perfectly now, better than we ever imagined possible. NASA called this morning wanting to give us a contract worth hundreds of millions of dollars, all because of what your son did." There was silence on the phone line as James tried to process this information. "Are you saying that Alex actually helped your company?" "He didn't just help us," Stone replied. "He saved us. Without his work, we would have lost everything. I need to apologize to both of you, and I need to make this right." An hour later, James and Alex were sitting in Stone's office at TechFlow Industries. the same office where Stone had made important decisions worth millions of dollars. But today, the most important decision was admitting he had been completely wrong about a 16-year-old boy. "Alex, I owe you an apology," Stone began. "I judged you based on your age and your family situation instead of listening to what you were trying to tell me. That was wrong of me." Alex nodded but didn't say anything. He was still processing the fact that his adjustments had actually worked. Stone continued, "I've spent the morning learning about what you did to our plasma engine. My engineers tell me that you solved a problem they've been working on for months. They say your understanding of electromagnetic field theory is remarkable." "I just read a lot of books and watched videos online," Alex said quietly. "Well, those books and videos taught you something that people with advanced degrees didn't know," Stone replied. "That tells me you have a very special gift." Dr. Park knocked on the office door and entered with several other engineers. "Mr. Stone, the NASA representatives are here. They want to meet the person responsible for our breakthrough." Stone looked at Alex. "Are you ready to meet some people from NASA?" Alex's eyes grew wide. NASA was the organization he had dreamed about since he was a small child. The idea of actually meeting NASA scientists seemed impossible. Dr. Michael Torres and Dr. Jennifer Martinez from NASA entered the office. They had flown in from Houston specifically to learn about TechFlow's plasma engine breakthrough. "This is Alex Chen," Stone said, introducing the teenager. "He's the person responsible for solving our magnetic field alignment problem." Dr. Torres looked surprised. He had expected to meet a senior engineer or research scientist. "How old are you, Alex?" 16, Alex replied nervously. Dr. Martinez smiled warmly. "Don't be nervous, we're here because you've accomplished something amazing. Can you explain to us how you knew what adjustments to make to the plasma engine?" Alex took a deep breath and began explaining his understanding of electromagnetic field theory. He talked about how he had noticed the interference patterns and researched the physics behind them. He described the papers he had read and the principles he had learned about harmonic resonance in magnetic fields. As Alex spoke, the NASA scientists exchanged glances of amazement. This teenager was discussing advanced physics concepts with a level of understanding that most graduate students never achieved. "Where did you learn all of this?" Dr. Torres asked. "Mostly from books at the library and videos online," Alex replied. "I've always been interested in how things work, especially anything related to space." Dr. Martinez made a decision that would change Alex's life forever. "Alex, NASA has a program for exceptional young people who show promise in science and engineering. Based on what you've accomplished here, I'd like to offer you a full scholarship to study at MIT." Alex couldn't believe what he was hearing. MIT was one of the best universities in the world for science and technology. Students from around the globe competed for the chance to study there. "But that's not all," Dr. Torres added. "We'd also like to offer you a paid internship with NASA's Advanced Propulsion Research Division. You would work with our team during summers and school breaks." James felt tears coming to his eyes. His son was being offered opportunities that he had never dreamed possible, all because the boy had been curious and brave enough to try to help. "There's one more thing," Dr. Martinez said. "NASA would like to contract with TechFlow to develop your plasma engine technology for our Mars mission program. But we want Alex to be part of the consulting team. We believe his insights could be valuable for future developments." Stone realized that this was his chance to make things right. "James, I'd like to offer you your job back. Actually, I'd like to promote you to facility supervisor with a significant increase in salary. And Alex, I'd like to offer you a paid position as a junior consultant while you complete your education." Over the next few hours, the details were worked out. Alex would finish high school while working part-time with TechFlow and NASA. He would then attend MIT on a full scholarship, continuing his work with both organizations during breaks and summers. The story of the teenage genius who solved a $50 million problem began to spread through the scientific community. Newspapers and magazines wanted to interview Alex. Universities invited him to speak at conferences. But Alex remained focused on learning and helping to develop better space technology. A year later, Alex was studying at MIT and working on advanced propulsion systems that could take humans to Mars. His work with NASA had led to several breakthrough discoveries in plasma physics. He had published research papers that were being read by scientists around the world. James had been promoted again at TechFlow and was now managing a team of maintenance supervisors. He was proud of the work he did and the respect he had earned from his colleagues. But he was most proud of his son, who had shown the world that intelligence and curiosity matter more than background or circumstances. Dr. Park often thought about that night when Alex had quietly fixed their plasma engine. It had taught her an important lesson about keeping an open mind and listening to ideas from unexpected sources. She had changed her approach to research, always encouraging her team to consider different perspectives. After the call ended, Stone sat in his office trying to process what he had just learned. The boy he had thrown out for tampering with their equipment had actually improved it beyond their wildest dreams. The same teenager he wanted to have arrested had solved their biggest technical challenge. Stone called Dr. Park to his office immediately. "Lisa, I need you to explain exactly what happened in Lab 7 yesterday evening." Dr. Park had been dreading this conversation, but she knew she had to. "Tell the truth." "Sir, the boy actually fixed our magnetic field alignment problem. The plasma engine is now operating at peak efficiency." "How is that possible?" Stone demanded. "He's just a kid with no training." "I don't know how he learned it, but he clearly understands electromagnetic field theory at an advanced level," Dr. Park replied. "Every adjustment he made was technically perfect." Stone began to realize the magnitude of his mistake. He had fired the father of the person who had just saved their $50 million project. Even worse, he had threatened to have that person arrested for helping them succeed. The phone rang again. This time it was a reporter from a major science magazine who had somehow learned about TechFlow's breakthrough. Then another call came from a technology website, wanting to write a story about their plasma engine success. Stone realized that news of their breakthrough was spreading quickly through the scientific community. Soon, everyone would want to know how they had achieved such dramatic improvements. And eventually, someone would discover that the breakthrough had come from an unlikely source. As the day progressed, more calls came in from universities, research institutions, and other aerospace companies. Everyone wanted to know the secret behind TechFlow's sudden success. Stone found himself in the awkward position of having to explain a breakthrough that he didn't understand and hadn't authorized. But the most important call was yet to come. Dr. Martinez from NASA called back with a proposal that would change everything. "Mr. Stone, based on your breakthrough, NASA would like to offer TechFlow a primary contract for developing propulsion systems for our next generation of spacecraft. This could be worth several $100 million. Stone couldn't speak for several seconds. This was the opportunity he had been working toward for 20 years, but it was all based on the work of a teenager he had just fired and threatened with arrest. He knew he had to make things right, but he wasn't sure how. The damage he had done might be too great to repair. And even if he could fix his relationship with James and Alex, would they be willing to help the company that had treated them so badly? The next morning, Dr. Lisa Park arrived at TechFlow Industries earlier than usual. She had barely slept after the events of the previous night. The image of that teenage boy adjusting their plasma engine controls kept playing in her mind. What bothered her most was not that he had broken into the lab, but the confidence with which he had made those adjustments. As she rode the elevator to the 7th floor, Dr. Park couldn't shake the feeling that something important had happened. Robert Stone had been so angry about the security breach that he hadn't given anyone time to properly check what the boy had actually done to their machine. When the elevator doors opened, Dr. Park walked quickly down the hallway toward Lab 7. She used her security card to unlock the heavy metal door and stepped inside. The plasma engine sat in the center of the room, looking exactly the same as it had the night before. But something felt different. Dr. Park approached the control panel where she had seen Alex making his adjustments. Everything looked normal. The settings appeared to be within the usual parameters that her team had been using for months, but appearances could be deceiving when it came to complex machinery. She decided to run a diagnostic test. This would tell her exactly what condition the plasma engine was in after the boy's interference. Dr. Park expected to find damage, or at least some evidence that the machine had been tampered with improperly. She pressed the startup sequence and waited for the machine to come to life. The magnetic field generators began to spin, just as they had hundreds of times before. The blue glow appeared around the plasma containment chambers. Everything seemed normal for the first few seconds. Then, something extraordinary happened. The readings on Dr. Park's computer screen began showing numbers she had never seen before. The energy output was climbing steadily, but without any of the dangerous vibrations that had plagued the system for months. The magnetic field alignment was perfect. Not just good, not just acceptable, but absolutely perfect. Dr. Park stared at the screen in disbelief. The plasma engine was operating at 340% higher efficiency than it had ever achieved before. The harmonic frequencies that had been causing problems were now working in perfect synchronization. The electromagnetic interference that had been affecting equipment throughout the building had completely disappeared. She ran the test again, thinking there must be some mistake with her equipment. But the results were the same. The plasma engine was not just working properly, it was working better than her team had ever dreamed possible. Dr. Park immediately called Tom Bradley, her lead engineer. "Tom, you need to get to Lab 7 right now. Something incredible has happened." Tom arrived 20 minutes later, still drinking his morning coffee. "What's going on, Lisa? You sounded excited on the phone." "Look at these readings," Dr. Park said, pointing to her computer screen. "Tell me what you see." Tom studied the data for several minutes. His coffee grew cold as he forgot to drink it. "This can't be right. These numbers are impossible. We've never achieved anything close to this level of efficiency." "That's exactly what I thought," Dr. Park replied. "But I've run the test 5 times now. The results are consistent every time." Tom began checking the machine itself, looking for any signs of modification. "Did someone from our team make changes yesterday after the incident with that kid, Doctor?" Park shook her head. "Nobody touched the machine after security escorted them out. Robert Stone ordered the lab to be sealed until this morning." The two engineers looked at each other as the same impossible thought occurred to both of them. Could a 16-year-old boy with no formal training have solved the problem that had stumped their entire team of experts? "We need to review the security footage," Dr. Park said quietly. They went to the security office and asked to see the recordings from Lab 7 the previous evening. The security guard was hesitant at first, but Dr. Park explained that they needed to understand exactly what had been done to their equipment. The footage showed Alex entering the lab and approaching the plasma engine. They watched as he studied the machine carefully before beginning to make adjustments to the control panel. What impressed Dr. Park most was how methodical and purposeful his movements were. This wasn't random tampering, it was systematic problem-solving. "Look at how he's adjusting the rotational frequencies," Tom said, pointing to the screen. "He's synchronizing the magnetic field generators to eliminate destructive interference." Dr. Park nodded slowly. "That's exactly what we've been trying to do for 8 months. How did he figure it out in a few minutes?" They watched the footage several more times, taking notes on each adjustment Alex had made. Every change he made was technically sound and theoretically correct. More importantly, every change contributed to the overall solution. "This kid knows what he's doing," Tom said with amazement. "This isn't luck or accident. He understands electromagnetic field theory better than most of our engineers." Dr. Park felt a mixture of excitement and embarrassment. Excitement because their project was finally working perfectly. Embarrassment because it had taken a teenager to solve what her team of PhD engineers couldn't figure out. Word about the plasma engine's sudden breakthrough began to spread through TechFlow Industries. Engineers and scientists who had heard about the improved performance came to see for themselves. Everyone was amazed by the dramatic improvement in efficiency and stability. But the most significant reaction came from outside the company. TechFlow's plasma engine project was being monitored by several government agencies, including NASA. The space agency had sophisticated sensors that automatically tracked advanced propulsion research happening in private companies across the country. When the plasma engine achieved its new level of performance, NASA's monitoring systems immediately detected the breakthrough. The sudden jump in efficiency was so dramatic that it triggered an automatic alert in NASA's Advanced Propulsion Research Division. Dr. Michael Torres was the NASA scientist responsible for monitoring private sector propulsion research. When he saw the alert on his computer, he couldn't believe what he was reading. According to the data, TechFlow Industries had achieved a breakthrough that NASA's own researchers had been working toward for years. Dr. Torres immediately called his supervisor, Dr. Jennifer Martinez, who headed NASA's propulsion research program. "Jennifer, you need to see this data from TechFlow Industries. They've just achieved something remarkable with their plasma engine." Dr. Martinez reviewed the information and was equally amazed. This level of efficiency should be impossible with current technology. "Are we sure this data is accurate?" "The sensors don't lie," Dr. Torres replied. "Whatever they did over there, it's a game changer for space propulsion." Dr. Martinez made a decision that would change everything for TechFlow Industries and the Chen family. "Call Robert Stone immediately. Tell him we want to schedule a meeting to discuss their breakthrough, and make it clear that NASA is very interested in what they've accomplished." Meanwhile, back at TechFlow, Robert Stone was having a terrible morning. He had spent most of the night worrying about potential damage to the plasma engine. In his mind, the incident with the cleaning man's son was a disaster that could set back their project by months or even years. Stone had already called his lawyers to discuss pressing charges against Alex for breaking and entering. He was determined to make an example of the boy to prevent anyone else from attempting to breach their security. When his secretary told him that NASA was calling, Stone assumed it was routine communication about their ongoing research partnership. He was completely unprepared for what Dr. Martinez told him. "Mr. Stone, our monitoring systems show that your plasma engine achieved a remarkable breakthrough yesterday evening. We're very excited about these developments and would like to schedule an immediate meeting to discuss potential collaboration." Stone was confused. "I'm sorry, Dr. Martinez, but there must be some mistake. We had a security incident yesterday that may have damaged our equipment. We certainly haven't achieved any breakthroughs. Our data shows a 340% improvement in energy efficiency and perfect magnetic field stabilization," Dr. Martinez continued. "This represents a major advance in plasma propulsion technology." Stone felt his legs go weak. He sat down heavily in his chair as the implications began to sink in. "Are you saying that our engine is working better than before?" "Much better," Dr. Martinez confirmed. "We'd like to send a team to examine your system as soon as possible. This could be exactly what we need for our Mars mission program." It was at that moment that Dr. Park turned around and saw Alex standing at the control panel of their $50 million prototype. For a few seconds, nobody moved. The scientists stared at the teenager who had somehow fixed their unsolvable problem. Then the security alarm went off. Robert Stone had been working late in his office when the security system alerted him that someone had entered Lab 7 without authorization. He immediately called his head of security and rushed to the 7th floor. When Stone burst into the lab, he saw exactly what he had feared most. An unauthorized person was touching their most valuable and sensitive equipment. The fact that this person was just a teenager made it even worse in his mind. "Step away from that machine right now," Stone shouted. Alex jumped back from the control panel, his heart racing. He tried to explain what he had been doing, but Stone wasn't interested in listening. "You have no idea what you've done," Stone said angrily. "This equipment is worth more money than you'll ever see in your lifetime. If you've damaged anything, your family will be paying for it for the next 50 years. Dr. Park tried to intervene. "Sir, actually the readings show that—" "I don't want to hear it," Stone cut her off. "Call security and have this boy arrested for breaking and entering, and find out how he got in here." James heard the commotion and came running up the stairs. When he saw his son in the restricted lab surrounded by angry adults, his heart sank. He knew this was bad. Very bad. "Please, sir," James said to Stone. "My son didn't mean any harm. He's just curious about science. I'll make sure this never happens again." Stone looked at James with disgust. "Your son has committed a serious crime. He broke into a restricted area and tampered with equipment that could explode and kill everyone in this building. You're both fired, and I'm calling the police. Alex tried one more time to explain. I was just trying to help. The magnetic fields were misaligned and I fixed them. Look at your readings. But Stone had already made up his mind. In his view, a cleaning man's son could never understand anything about advanced technology. The boy was obviously lying to try to get out of trouble. Security guards arrived and escorted James and Alex out of the building. As they walked through the lobby where Alex had spent so many evenings doing homework, James felt like his world was falling apart. He had lost his job, and his son might face criminal charges. Alex looked back at the building one last time, wondering if anyone would ever realize that he had actually solved their problem. It was Thursday evening when everything changed. Alex sat in the lobby as usual, trying to focus on his chemistry homework. But his laptop screen kept flickering worse than ever before. The interference was so strong that he could barely read the words on his screen. He looked up at the elevator that went to the 7th floor and noticed more scientists than usual going up and down. Something big was happening tonight. Alex could feel it in the air. The electromagnetic interference was stronger than he had ever measured before. His small radio was making loud crackling sounds even when he held it far from the elevator. Whatever they were testing upstairs was more powerful than usual. Dr. Lisa Park was having the worst day of her career. The plasma engine test that morning had failed again. The magnetic field generators were creating vibrations so strong that they nearly damaged the entire system. Her team of engineers stood around looking confused and frustrated. They had tried everything they could think of, but nothing worked. We're running out of time, Dr. Park told her team. The NASA representatives are coming next week to see our progress. If we can't show them a working engine, we'll lose the contract. One of the younger engineers, Tom Bradley, suggested they try a different approach. Maybe we should look at the harmonic frequencies again. There might be something we're missing. Dr. Park nodded, but she wasn't very hopeful. They had already spent months studying the harmonic frequencies. The problem seemed to be getting worse, not better. Every time they made one adjustment, it caused problems somewhere else in the system. As the evening went on, Dr. Park decided to stay late and run more tests. She wanted to try one more time to understand what was going wrong. She gathered her team and they headed up to Lab 7 for another round of experiments. Meanwhile, James was cleaning the offices on the 6th floor. He could hear the hum of machinery coming from above. It was louder than usual tonight. Sometimes the building would vibrate slightly when the scientists ran their tests. James didn't mind. It just meant that smart people were working hard to create something important. Alex had given up trying to do homework. The interference was too strong. Instead, he decided to walk around the lobby and study the patterns. He noticed that the interference was strongest near the elevator, but it also seemed to be coming from the stairwell that led to the upper floors. As he walked near the stairwell door, something strange happened. The door was slightly open. This never happened. Usually, all the doors to the upper floors were locked tight with electronic keypads. But tonight, someone had left the stairwell door cracked open just a few inches. Alex looked around the lobby. The security guard was at his desk, but he was busy reading something on his computer. His father was upstairs cleaning offices. Nobody was watching the stairwell door. Curiosity got the better of Alex. He had been wondering for weeks about what was causing the electromagnetic interference. Here was his chance to find out. He quietly slipped through the door and began climbing the stairs. The sound of machinery got louder as he climbed. By the time he reached the 7th floor, he could feel the vibrations in the walls. The electromagnetic interference was so strong that his digital watch stopped working completely. The door to the 7th floor was also slightly open. Alex could see bright lights coming from inside. He heard voices talking about magnetic fields and energy outputs. These were the scientists working on their secret project. Alex took a deep breath and carefully pushed the door open just enough to peek inside. What he saw took his breath away. In the center of a large room was the most amazing machine he had ever seen. It looked like something from a science fiction movie. There were spinning rings of metal, glowing blue lights, and electrical cables everywhere. The machine was about the size of a small car, but it seemed to float slightly off the ground. This had to be the plasma engine he had read about online. Alex had studied plasma physics in his free time, and he recognized some of the components. There were magnetic field generators, plasma containment chambers, and what looked like a fusion reactor core. But something was very wrong with the machine. Alex could see it immediately, even from across the room. The magnetic field generators were not aligned properly. They were fighting against each other instead of working together. This was creating the dangerous vibrations that were causing all the electromagnetic interference. Alex had read about this exact problem in a research paper he found online. The paper was written by a famous scientist who had worked on similar projects. The solution was actually quite simple, but it required understanding how magnetic fields interact with each other in three-dimensional space. The scientists in the room were looking at computer screens and talking about complex equations. But they were missing the obvious solution that was right in front of them. Alex could see exactly what needed to be done. Dr. Park was getting more frustrated by the minute. "The harmonic resonance is still off," she told her team. "We're getting the same unstable oscillations as before." Tom Bradley was adjusting settings on a computer. "I've tried every combination I can think of. Nothing seems to work." Another engineer, Kevin Walsh, was studying readings from various sensors. "The magnetic field strength is within normal parameters, but the alignment is creating interference patterns." Alex listened to their conversation and realized they were talking about exactly what he had been studying. They were trying to solve the magnetic field alignment problem, but they were approaching it the wrong way. In his research, Alex had learned that magnetic fields behave differently when they're rotating at high speeds. The scientists were treating the fields as if they were static, but the plasma engine required the fields to spin. This created a whole different set of physics problems. Alex knew he should leave. He wasn't supposed to be here. But the solution to their problem was so clear to him that he felt like he had to help. These people had been working on this for months, and they were stuck on something that could be fixed in a few minutes. He waited until most of the scientists moved to the other side of the room to look at some data. Then he quietly stepped into the lab and approached the plasma engine. Up close, the machine was even more impressive. Alex could see the magnetic field generators spinning slowly, creating the blue glow he had noticed from the doorway. The fields were definitely misaligned. One generator was spinning slightly faster than the others, and this was creating a cascade effect that threw off the entire system. Alex had read about this type of problem in several research papers. The solution was to adjust the rotational speed of each generator so that they created constructive interference instead of destructive interference. It was like tuning a guitar. Each string had to be perfectly tuned to create harmony. Without really thinking about what he was doing, Alex began making small adjustments to the control panel. He had studied the theory extensively, and the controls were labeled clearly enough that he could figure out which ones controlled the rotational speeds. As he made the first adjustment, the vibrations in the room decreased slightly. The blue glow from the plasma engine became steadier and brighter. Alex made another adjustment, and the electromagnetic interference that had been bothering his laptop all week suddenly stopped. The change was so dramatic that the scientists on the other side of the room immediately noticed. Dr. Park looked up from her computer screen and saw the readings changing in ways she had never seen before. "What's happening?" she asked her team. "The field alignment is stabilizing." Tom Bradley was staring at his computer in amazement. "The harmonic frequencies are perfect. How is this possible?" The old clock on the wall showed 8:30 p.m. as James wiped down another desk in the fancy office building. He had been cleaning these offices for 3 years now, and every night felt the same. Push the cart, empty the trash, wipe the desks, vacuum the floors. It wasn't the life he had dreamed of, but it paid the bills and put food on the table for his son. James worked for a big company called TechFlow Industries. They made parts for rockets and airplanes. The building was huge, with shiny floors and expensive art on the walls. During the day, men and women in fancy suits walked around talking about million-dollar projects. At night, it was just James and a few other cleaners working quietly while the city slept outside. His 16-year-old son, Alex, would come to the office every evening after school. The boy would sit in the lobby with his backpack full of books, doing homework on his old laptop. James felt bad that his son had to spend his evenings in an office building instead of at home like other kids. But he couldn't afford a babysitter, and he didn't want to leave Alex alone at their small apartment. Alex was different from other kids his age. While his classmates were playing video games or watching movies, Alex was reading about space and science. He would check out thick books from the library about physics and math. Sometimes James would find him watching videos online about how rockets work or how computers are made. The boy had a hunger for learning that amazed his father. "Dad, did you know that if you spin a magnet really fast near a piece of metal, it can make electricity?" Alex had asked one evening while his father cleaned nearby offices. James smiled as he remembered that conversation. His son was always sharing these interesting facts that he learned from his books and videos. Even though James didn't understand most of it, he could see the excitement in Alex's eyes when he talked about science. The CEO of TechFlow Industries was a man named Robert Stone. He was in his 50s, with gray hair and expensive suits that probably cost more than James made in a month. Stone had built the company from nothing 20 years ago, and now it was worth hundreds of millions of dollars. He was proud of his success and expected everything in his company to run perfectly. Stone was known for being very strict about rules. He had cameras everywhere, security guards at every entrance, and special cards that employees needed to get into different parts of the building. He believed that strict control was the key to success. If someone broke a rule, even a small one, Stone would not hesitate to fire them. The most important project at TechFlow was happening on the 7th floor. They were building something called a plasma engine. This was a new type of engine that could make rockets go much faster than ever before. The project was worth $50 million, and only the smartest engineers in the company were allowed to work on it. The plasma engine was kept in a special room called Lab 7. The room had thick walls, special locks, and warning signs everywhere. Only 5 people in the entire company had permission to enter that room. Even the regular engineers who worked on other projects were not allowed inside. James cleaned the hallway outside Lab 7 every night. He would see the warning signs and the thick metal door with its electronic lock. Sometimes he wondered what was behind that door that was so important. But he was just a cleaner, and he knew better than to ask questions about things that were none of his business. Alex had noticed the special room too. Every evening when he sat in the lobby, he could see people in white coats going in and out of the elevators. He knew they were scientists and engineers working on important projects. Sometimes he would daydream about what it would be like to work on something that could help people explore space. The boy had taught himself a lot about science by reading and watching videos online. He understood things about electricity and magnetism that most adults didn't know. But nobody at the company knew this. To them, he was just the cleaning man's son, who sat quietly in the lobby doing homework. One evening, something strange started happening with Alex's laptop. He was working on his math homework when the screen began to flicker. At first, he thought the battery was dying, but when he checked, it was fully charged. The flickering got worse when he moved closer to the elevator that went to the 7th floor. Alex was curious by nature. This strange behavior of his laptop reminded him of something he had read about electromagnetic interference. When strong magnetic fields are created by machines, they can affect other electronic devices nearby. He wondered if something on the 7th floor was creating these magnetic fields. Over the next few days, Alex began to notice a pattern. The interference with his laptop was strongest between 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. every evening. This was exactly when he saw the most scientists going up to the 7th floor. It seemed like they were running some kind of test or experiment during those hours. Alex started bringing a small radio to the office. Just like his laptop, the radio would make crackling sounds when he got near the elevator to the 7th floor. This confirmed his theory that something upstairs was creating electromagnetic interference. But what could it be? He began researching electromagnetic interference online. He learned that powerful magnets, electrical generators, and certain types of experimental equipment could cause these problems. The more he read, the more convinced he became that TechFlow was working on something involving very strong electromagnetic fields. James noticed that his son seemed distracted lately. Instead of focusing on his homework, Alex would walk around the lobby with his radio, listening to the static it made near different parts of the building. When James asked what he was doing, Alex tried to explain about electromagnetic fields and interference patterns. James didn't understand the technical details, but he could see that his son was genuinely fascinated by whatever was happening. 1. Evening, Dr. Lisa Park, the lead scientist on the plasma engine project, was working late in Lab 7. She was frustrated because the engine wasn't working properly. For months, her team had been trying to solve a problem with the magnetic field generators. The fields were supposed to work together in perfect harmony, but instead, they were creating dangerous vibrations that could destroy the engine. Dr. Park had 3 PhD degrees and 20 years of experience in aerospace engineering. Her team included some of the smartest people in the industry. But despite all their knowledge and expensive equipment, they couldn't figure out why the magnetic fields wouldn't stabilize. The plasma engine was supposed to be ready for testing in 2 months. NASA was interested in using this technology for future space missions. If TechFlow could make it work, they would get a contract worth hundreds of millions of dollars. But if they failed, the company might go out of business. As Dr. Park worked late into the night, she didn't know that a 16-year-old boy in the lobby had already figured out what was wrong with their project. Alex had never seen the plasma engine, but his research into electromagnetic interference had taught him exactly what could cause the kind of patterns his laptop and radio were detecting. The problem was that Alex was just a cleaner's son. Nobody would listen to a teenager who had never been to college or worked as an engineer. In the minds of everyone at TechFlow, there was a clear line between the important people who wore suits and the unimportant people who emptied trash cans. This kind of thinking was about to lead to a big mistake. Sometimes the most important discoveries come from the most unexpected places. And sometimes the people we overlook are the ones who can solve our biggest problems. But Robert Stone didn't believe in giving chances to people who didn't fit his idea of success. In his mind, smart people went to expensive schools and got fancy degrees. A cleaning man's son who learned from library books and internet videos couldn't possibly know anything useful about advanced technology. This attitude was common in many big companies. People in charge often forgot that intelligence and curiosity can be found anywhere. They created barriers and rules that kept out anyone who didn't look or sound like them. These barriers were about to cause TechFlow to make a very big mistake, The days passed. Alex became more and more interested in the mystery of the electromagnetic interference. He started staying up late at home, reading everything he could find about magnetic field generators and plasma physics. He was teaching himself things that most college students never learned. Meanwhile, his father James continued cleaning the SAO offices, unaware that his son was on the verge of solving a $50 million problem. James just wanted to do his job well and provide for his family. He never imagined that bringing his son to work every evening would lead to something that would change their lives forever. The stage was set for a confrontation that would reveal the true cost of prejudice and the incredible power of curiosity. In a world where people were judged by their job titles and bank accounts, a teenage boy was about to prove that real intelligence comes from passion, not privilege.